So calories still up or they're coming down yet?
I brought calories. Interesting, you should ask. I brought calories down this week. I pulled it down to. I made a plan. Yeah, I made it was three just between 3,000 and 3,1 somewhere for my low days.
Hmm.
For my highs, it was more carb focused anyway. Proteins dropped, fats dropped, and carbs were up to like 700. I think I had it set as, and I'm doing it in alignment with my training. So push pull legs rest, push pull legs rest. Every leg day was going to be a higher carb day, but
Hmm.
I don't think I pulled the calories on the lower days low enough yet. Usually for me, I could just pull them down a little bit and I'll start losing weight immediately. But
Hmm.
I pulled it down to 3,050 because it's between 3 and 3,1 somewhere. So I pulled it down there, which is quite a drastic pull in calories. I think I was up at around 4,2 before.
Yeah,
And
on the low days.
on on an average, because I was doing highs and mediums, that was just trying to hold. That was like a holding phase at the end of the growth phase. And yeah, it's weird. I started the week at like, no, sorry, 108.7, I think it was.
Hmm.
And I've gone up to almost 110 over the past 4 days. It's so fucking weird. I've got no idea what's going on. Like
Well,
it, it defies all science. It shouldn't have happened. I don't know why. It just has.
I had the exact opposite happen, man. Like I finished my fucking cut. I was on like 2,000, like very low, like probably like a low two average. And
Yep.
then I moved to like probably like a three and a half average, and I dropped another kilo and a half.
Pushing
So I
carb.
was,
You would have been pushing
yeah,
carb.
like I just doing like high days, maybe once every 5 days. But then my off days are still real low.
Yep.
Like, maybe 150 grams of carbs sort of thing. And then I have my medium days at 300, but my high day is like, 700.
Yeah.
And it's still after the high day, and then I have my low day. The day after that, I'm like fucking low as fuck.
Yeah. Probably, possibly from the increased thyroid stimulus.
Hmm.
Possibly. But then, yeah, you'd think muscle glycogen would have filled up and made you heavier. But yeah, it's weird, isn't it? Sometimes it goes the opposite way.
I definitely wasn't full as well. Like I was looking and I'm still flat. I'm just like, I've never chewed through carbs this fucking quick.
Yeah.
But I did start growth, so that may be contributing just to staying leaner, but it shouldn't affect my blood glucose is fine and everything. But I'm just like I'm eating like, on a medium day, 500 grams of carbs, and I'm like properly flat in the gym.
Yeah.
So it's just ripping through. I sit on my ass all day. I'm like, I don't fucking move.
So I've even
Uh,
got my activity's gone right up as well. I went from about average 8,000 steps to
hmm.
above 10 now. So my average is probably 11 at the moment, and it's only been 4 days. But
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, every like activity's gone up, food's come down, and weight's somehow gone up with it.
It might just be that first stage where the water retention starts to come up because your body's sort of like, what the fuck's happening? And then
Yeah.
you start to get that drop. But at
Yeah.
your weight, you'd expect it to sort of be like, fuck, and just start falling.
Yeah, well, during the holding phase after the growth phase, I was desperately trying to hold on to weight. Like I had to
Hmm.
push a lot of food to even hold. Like it some days was almost dropping down to 108, and then I dropped my calories and it's gone back up.
The
So
body loves homeostasis, man, more than anything
yeah,
else.
I think when you throw growth hormone into the mix as well, it fucks with a lot of different variables.
Electrolyte balance and everything, yeah.
Yeah, I also have a client on at the moment who's new to hormone as well, and
Hmm.
she's the same. Like her weight's not going down. She's getting leaner and leaner, but her weight's not budging, and she's looking better.
That's the same, man. Like my weight was the same. I'm like, what the fuck is happening? Like I think for some people as well, I do believe myself to be somewhat of a above average responder to most things. So it's like
Yeah.
I'm just like the amount I'm just changing. Like I'm on what 200 tests, 150 primo, and like I'm just fucking like I almost can't gain weight, but I'm getting fucking leaner and stronger, and I'm just like, I mean, I'm not gonna argue. I'll
You got to
take
be
it.
happy with it, yeah. I'm the same. Like I'm matching my numbers really easy now. Like
Hmm.
I was on MK, I was on like probably 1,400 megs of test primo trend combined, and I was pushing hard to get these numbers. Yeah, like
Hmm.
I was really pushing, and now I've dropped everything down. I'm down to 300 tests now, and I'm hitting these numbers easy. with
You
less
earned it, man. That's the
less
thing.
calories. The only thing that makes sense out of that is probably, organs are under a lot less stress from all the food coming in,
Mm.
PEDs, all that sort of stuff. So you've got a
Yeah.
little, you're not as fatigued from that. So you've got a little bit more push with your with training. And I don't have a big fucking solid gut in front of me now that I'm trying to move around and fucking all this extra water attention that I'm trying to lift with me when I'm moving. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's interesting. It's always an interesting phase going back into maintenance. Always, people love it. People love coming out of a bulk into maintenance, and same with
Yeah.
people love coming out of deficit into
That's
maintenance.
my favorite, man. Going from the deficit into that slide up, because so many things can happen. You can either like keep falling and fucking keep losing weight crazy, or you start just like acquiring tissue you're gonna acquire tissue pretty much at the fastest rate ever because you would have lost some. So you're gonna get some of that muscle memory initially when you get back. P ratio is gonna be super high because you're gonna be at a really, lean point. But either way, it's fucking golden. I struggle psychologically with the coming out of the bulk into the maintenance and moving to the deficit, just from like I'm not fueled enough standpoint. Like I don't feel like a fucking animal, but
Yeah, I get exactly where you're coming from. Like I've started to flatten out a little bit, and
hmm,
PEDs are down so much. I don't have that aggressive looking physique anymore.
yeah,
It still looks good, but fucking
yeah.
it's not that aggressive like fuck you looking type of
It,
physique,
it's funny, like with bodybuilder psychology, it's like the leanest you've ever been, that's now the set point of what's lean. Anything above that, you're fat. And then like the biggest, most juicy you've ever looked, as soon as you step back from that, oh, I'm fucking small. That's
Yeah, body dysmorphia is fucked up. Yeah, bodybuilders are quite, yeah, we're pretty mental, aren't we?
yeah, 100%.
So we want the biggest and the leanest, which you can get.
At the same time.
Yeah.
So moving into fatigue management.
Yeah, fatigue management, it's a good one. A lot of people try and train themselves into the ground, but push and push and push. Like the people that have got a good mind for bodybuilding and training anyway, because they're trying to push so hard. But if they're green to the fact that fatigue management's actually a thing, then it becomes quite hard pushing and pushing and pushing because you come to a certain point where your body says, no, fuck you, we're not pushing anymore. And you're unaware of the fact that you could deload and feel a shitload better. You've lost a bit of, you're starting to lose motivation to train because you're feeling so fucking run into the ground. And then, yeah, if you keep pushing past that point, your body's just gonna say, fuck you, all right, we're getting a flu or we're getting sick we're giving you something, cunt, so you fucking sit down and don't keep pushing.
Yeah, either you decide when to stop or your body will decide for you, basically. And
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
it's going to be less effective rest because you're going to be fighting off whatever it did to fucking put you on your ass. Um,
Yeah.
I think it's funny. You usually get two types of people. You've got the usual one that are into the heavy bodybuilding is like that fucking don't listen to my body, fuck you, I'm gonna make you do it. And that's where you end up in that overtrained state to where you're not recovering, you're not progressing, you're not progressing in weights and you're not going to be progressing in physique as well. You're going to have high inflammation. But sometimes you do get the other genotype where it's like they maybe think they're training hard and they're not like you watch their training like, I think you had like 10 reps in reserve there. And they don't push hard enough. And it's basically you're usually going to be one of the two. It's very rare to meet someone that's sort of that's not highly developed, that's sort of found the right measure. I know for me, I was one that has to definitely pull back, but it comes from the understanding that more is not better. Like there is sometimes, absolutely not even sometimes, there's heaps of times when less is more. Where
Everything,
like,
everything's about
less
that.
frequency, yeah, like less frequency, less volume, less drugs, even less food can be like actually better at getting the outcome. So it's like those people as well, they have to decide, are you training for enjoyment or are you training because you want a result? Because I'd rather train more fucking days a week, but I also get enjoyment out of the result. And if I'm training when I'm in it's a shit session, that's not enjoyable for me anymore. Like I'd rather it just be perfect less than fucking shit mediocre sessions all the time.
Yeah, I think it's good that we're aware of that, so we can kind of pull back when we need to. We can call an
Hmm.
early deload if we need to as well. Other people, they're not too sure and they're just thinking, oh fuck, I don't know, I feel like shit. I don't know if I want to keep doing this or not. Yeah. So, well, with clients basically and myself, I'll set up a 16-week program and
Hmm.
I'll put a deload on week 8 because generally people can, depends on the amount of sets as well, but just say you got like 75 sets a week in total. You can push that for about 7 weeks with progressive overload, continue to progress every week. And then once you get to week 7, it's hard. Like it's a fucking hard push, but you push your way through. Like I'll obviously talk to my clients and say, all right, we got deload next week. Nice hard push on week 7. Week 8, we're going to deload. It's going to look something like this. We'll go about 50 to 70% intensity with in comparison to what you did week 7. And we'll pull up. RPE should be sitting on about 5 or 6, maybe 7. And there's reduced sets and reduced exercises. Look something like that. That's the basic all-round best way to go about it, I feel.
That's gonna the only other metric you can throw in is decreased training days. Like, but if you do those two, if you do, 2 of the 3, basically it's a balance of the more you take out, the more you're definitely going to recover. But then it's a little bit of like a pushing shit uphill to begin with, the more you take out. And then obviously the other way around is, taking less out, you are able to start again more, but you might actually have to extend that out for a period of time that becomes inefficient. Like I know one style that I learned from Scott Slamman was basically keeping the intensity still at 100%, but dropping down to 1 working set for every exercise. Yeah. And then with that, you can drop a few exercises and, add a few extra rest days. And it just depends what kind of person you are. Like I very much struggle to hold myself back. I'd sort of rather, and that takes a bit more of a feel. Like, you know what I mean? Like if I go in and train hard and then I go the next day I'm supposed to train, I'm like, oh, I'll rest, train hard again. I might take 2 rest days. It kind of a bit more feel. Whereas you just go to 50%, do less. You're guaranteed you're going to wash off a significant amount of fatigue.
It does have its pros and cons, though. The one that you just said about what Scott Slamman showed you, that's excellent. That's how I'd like to go about my deloads now. Because if you're going back the way that I said before, the way that I generalize deloads with, 50 to 70%, the problem with that is once you go back into, you finish your week 8, you've done your deload on week 8, you go into week 9, your muscles are a lot higher susceptible to rupture. So you could tear a muscle a lot easier coming out of such a soft training week, going back into it, trying to match numbers again. So I have to clearly state to my clients and say, look, we don't want to go at an RPE above 8 or 9. That's a sensible rate for this week. And then we can go balls to the wall again the following week. Yeah. So what you just described with Scott, that's a really good way that I like to do things now, because you've got the benefits of not having to back off the week after. So the week after deload, you can go straight back in and go hard because your body's not desensitized to that weight at all.
Yeah.
So, I think that's the best way to go about it.
The way I actually run programs for myself at this point is like, I actually never have structured deloads. But if I feel like, for example, if I have one session where I start to feel a bit fatigued, I'll take an extra day off and then I'll go again. And usually for me, I'm sort of, the way I structure program periodization as well is I like to start with very little sets, like 1 to 2, depending on the frequency working sets. Yep. And I'll slowly progress that up very slowly. Like I might add like a fucking set a week or something like that, like on one exercise. And I'll build that up over time. And the intensity will actually drop just a little bit. Like instead of going like when I'm doing 1 or 2, I'm like going until I'm fucking breaking everything. And then I might leave that at the actual 1 rep in reserve. And then sometimes I might even leave 2. So I'll leave the 1 final one and the half or like 1.5 in reserve, basically, as I start to add more volume. And then basically I'll get to the end of that. And then, that might run me for like fucking 16, 17 weeks. And like without that, there's small little like pulls back when I feel myself getting too close to the top. And then, exactly like on your week 8, but when I know like, okay, this is probably the end here, I'm going to overreach a little bit, fucking everything, I might throw some drop sets and everything like that. Cause I know I'm going to have, when I feel like, okay, I'm not going to get out of this with 1 day off, I'm going to do a significant deload. But because when I do that again, after I've run from like low sets to high sets, I actually come back to the start again. So it's almost within itself a deload if I just start back really, really low volume and then start building again.
It's actually a really good way to structure things, because what you're saying about the 1 or 2 sets as well, you can go balls to the wall and you're comfortable doing that. Well, I think it's a good way to structure it for to mitigate the psychological side of things, because when you've got 3 or 4 sets sitting there, your first two sets, you're not trying to fucking push because you know that you've got another two sets of that to do, which is a sensible way to go about things. But also, like, you could be getting more out of just the two sets instead of thinking, fuck, I've still got another two sets to go after this. So I'm just going to hold back a little bit more. And then you kind
And
of get,
sometimes that's subconscious.
yeah, definitely. But if you're doing it like you said, and you're building up along the way, by the time you get up to that three sets, you're kind of like, all right, this is progressive overload. This is fine. I'm going to fucking push through hard on all three sets.
Yep. And
Yeah.
that's why a lot of my clients, I like to start depending on where they are, but most of them will start at like a full body or maybe an upper lower where it's one set. And the main reason behind that one is frequency, because if you do less, you can do it more often. And if you can grow from a smaller stimulus, that's great because we can do it more often and grow faster. But the main reason is like, I want to teach you what true fucking failure is. So when we add a set, you're not just adding a set of whatever you determined failure was before. It's like, you've learned true failure. You've got one fucking chance for that muscle to grow today. That's it. And so you make the most of it. Now we're adding a second set. It's a mirror image of the second one. You're like, you only need two. Like, that was like, if you do two balls to the wall sets, that's fucked. The only thing that I'm starting to come into now that I do think is a valid metric is the basically the neuromuscular efficiency. So like when you do multiple sets of the same exercise, usually that third set is the best set because you've hit your groove, you hit your stride, and like your body really knows what it's doing, and the engagement you get on the muscle is really good. And you don't get the chance to do that. You move a fuckload of load, but it's not super specific. But when you get to that third and sometimes that fourth is just massive engagement, huge pump. And you can't get that with that higher intensity, but that's why I do like to build into that. But you do have that understanding of what true failure is.
I think that's a great way to structure things and go
Hmm.
about things. Yeah.
Just because a lot of people just don't know, because they've always done, what does everyone start with, man? Like fucking 3 sets of 10, or maybe you go 10 or 6, 10, 12, and then you do drop sets. Like, it's just sort of everyone starts with that. And and that's something that, once again, Scott taught me, just to do one set, just to mentally, and especially if you have those people that love to push themselves. Usually they'll push themselves, they'll do everything. They'll push, and eventually your body comes down to a level where you feel like you're pushing really hard, but you just don't have anything in the tank. So you're putting your foot flat to the floor, but you've got no fucking fuel there. So it's going to feel hard, but it's not actually hard. And that's a completely different sensation. Like when you come in fresh and you do one of those sets, it's different. Like you feel just this absolute massive tension everywhere. And you're like, oh, that's what a fucking full set to failure is supposed to feel like.
Yeah. I think it's interesting what you said before as well about going by feel with deload. I think it's a great way to go about things because I did structure a program for myself and I've done it for one of my clients as well because I feel they're probably not that legs are a lacking weak point. And one of my clients does have legs as a weak point. So I've structured his training quite the same as what I did, what I'm about to tell you, with 3 leg days. And I had structured it originally with a deload down in week 8. And I thought to myself, I might not make it to week 8 because it's quite intense. I think it was 102 sets a week or something.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that was with 3 leg days in there. So there's a lot of intensity going into legs, which is quite fatiguing, as you know.
absolutely.
And I progressed weekly, and week 1 was decent. Week 2 was pretty fucking hard. Week 3 was hardcore. By the time I was almost at the end of week 3, I thought, fuck, I feel like I'm at week 7 where I'd usually do the deload next week. So I had to restructure the programming, and I did a deload every 4 weeks. So I'd push
Awesome.
hard for 3 weeks, and then I'd pull it back a little bit with a deload like what we just spoke about, where I'm not pulling it back too much, but I'm getting some sufficient fatigue management in, getting some rest, recovering somewhat, and being able to then go into, say, week 1, 2, 3, progressing, deload on week 4, then week 5, I'm able to then progress on the week 3 without having to slow down my pace at all. So by the time you get to 8 deload, you've done a fuckload. You've done a fuckload of progressive overload as well.
That's in volume, yeah.
Yeah, you've made the most out of things. And that's because it was during a growth phase as well. So I had carbs going up and up and up too, which was great. And
It depends what metric you're using to push hypertrophy. Like you can use volume. So it's like, we have to get the volume in. So therefore you're just going to have to deload, or whether you're using intensity to push that hypertrophy. And that's where you can sort of do more what I do, but neither of them is correct or better. They're different. Eventually, you do both because you'll adapt to intensity, and then after you've probably run that for 12 weeks, there's only you can't exactly progress volume from there. You know what I mean? It's like now time to
I
pull
did
back and
well with volume. I did implement a lot of deloads. Not deloads, a lot of drop sets to certain exercises that would work with drop sets. Like I did a leg press drop set. I was doing lat pull down drop sets, bicep curl drop sets, just the stuff that actually works. Like you wouldn't go do a drop set on rear delts or something like that. There's just no fucking point.
Fuck, something I did the other day actually that I fucking loved. I haven't done almost ever. Did a drop set on barbell back squat. Fuck, it was actually awesome.
Yes, I don't do barbell
Last
squats
exercise.
anymore, but I remember when I
Mm,
did that, I did used to do them drop sets. They were fucking,
mm.
and then you pull back to like say 100 kilos and you just pump out 20 reps by the end, and it's fucking intense.
It was the last exercise. I would never ever do that. Probably anything except that. That's why I don't like barbell squats because it just loads the core too much, and I'm just too fucking wrecked. But to do it at the end, it was one drop set, and that's it. I think that's probably almost the only way I'd implement it in like a hypertrophy sense these days. Um, Definitely works for some people. It depends on your anatomy, but for me, I just feel way too fatigued in the core. And like I literally want to go home. Like, as soon as I do squats, I want to go home.
That's why I stopped as well, because it was taking too much out of the core, especially my erectors, because my lower
Oh
back
yeah.
is the best. So I figured my core is fatiguing before my fucking legs are. So there's no point in
Mm,
doing this on leg day. And I'm not
yeah.
going to put it onto a fucking ab day to train my core because that's just stupid.
Exactly. So yeah, so when it comes to like when to deload, the main things you can watch for, there's a few metrics you can use. Like if you want to be all real technical about it, you can use like heart rate variability. So if you've got some kind of your watch or Whoop or whatever, measuring your heart rate variability, that will go down and your resting heart rate will go up when you're starting to get into like a really fatigued sympathetic state. Um, Another real easy one is when you're pushing and you can't get that progressive overload. You just can't beat it no matter what you do, whether you drop the weight, try and get more reps, or whether you just try and put a little bit on, you've just got nothing there. And the motivation to train is a big one for me, man. Like when
I think that's the biggest. Yeah.
like it depends on the person though. Like if you're a person that loves to train, then that's probably one of the best metrics. Like as soon as you're like, oh fuck, I kind of want to train today, that's an absolute indicator that you're definitely fatigued.
I think
But if you're
any individual across the board, really.
well, if someone's sort of like, for example, they really want the physique, but once again, this is obviously it's a big scale. But if the more someone's sort of focused on the outcome and less in love with the journey, sometimes you have those days like, oh, I can't be fucked training, and then just because like maybe it's outside work stuff you're thinking about or you've got other shit to do, that's different to like a generalized overall feeling of like, oh, like I actually can't train, I'm fucked.
Yeah.
You know, like I
Yeah.
think you got something more important to do, or you want to go to a fucking festival or whatever. Like that's different.
Yeah.
But most of the time it is a really good metric. Um,
That's
that's
that,
pretty much the main
that's what
ones,
I'll
yeah.
gauge with clients. I'll keep a close eye on motivation to train, and once that starts to drop,
Usually you'll see like an actual descent. Like it might be like 10, 10, 9, 8, 5. And and
yeah,
that's obviously
once it starts to get around the 6, 5, even 4 area, all right, they probably let's throw a deload in there early because they're either fucked or they're just losing interest. So give them something light for the week, and then that'll let them rethink what they
yeah.
get back into a good psychological state about training.
And that can also be a good metric on when to end the deload because while there is a week is pretty much a good generalized amount of time, depending on like what kind of deload you did, as well as that compared to what you're doing in the program. Like for example, if it's a super high volume program and you pull it back, and depending on how far you pushed into that, like overreaching, if you pushed really far, if you're just taking someone on, say for example, take on a new client and they've been doing their own shit and they've been fucking killing themselves for months on end, and you sort of start and basically they start to fatigue already, like week 3, they actually might need like 2 weeks to fucking get rid of everything that they've done prior to that to actually start fresh. But once you've sort of, you know what they've done, it's a lot easier to mark sort of how long you sort of actually need the deload for, and compared to what you're doing in that deload.
That's where as a coach you got to be really specific when you speak to someone. You say, all right, how have you been training? Like, you've been training hard. Like, everyone's going to say they're training hard anyway, but you got to kind of ask a few more specific type questions, like how are you feeling after your training session? How have you been feeling lately in regards to fatigue, all that sort of thing, because you might want to start them off on a fucking deload straight away.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Which is another reason why I do like to start people on the one set, because it almost acts as a, I'm starting them. It's achieving. Most people aren't training like that. So even if it's not a true deload, you can kind of deload in a way where you're deloading one stimulus, but you're actually training another one. To where, like, if someone's usually pushing a shitload of volume and drop sets, then even if they're really pushing hard neurologically in a with a lot of intensity, that's still going to be a deload for them, because the system of them that's taxed is their metabolic system, where they're just fucking pushing by, they're moving energy, or burning carbohydrate, building lactate, but they're not really pushing on intensity because they're doing so much volume. So, and same's true for the opposite. But so if you're doing if someone's like a power lifter, if you actually, give them a little bit of more metabolic work, they're going to deload from that main stimulus and be able to go back while actually progressing something else. It really does. Once again, everything depends on everyone's individual circumstance of what they're doing, what the goal is, and everything like that. Obviously, for us, it's usually hypertrophy, and most people are training with that higher volume, so it can work well to drop it into that more neurological sort of thing. But that's most of the ways to deload, I guess.
There is the
Next
rare
thing,
occasion of someone needing the complete week off as well.
absolutely, yeah.
I don't know if I could give an example right off the top of my head on when that would be, but if I was to ever put anyone on a full week off, I'd say just make sure you get your steps in as well, because having a full week off, it's not great for nutrient partitioning. You'd want the food to still get pushed where you want it to get pushed, not be floating around in your system. Then you've got blood glucose, floating around thinking, where are we going to store? It's not going to be in muscles. We're not training. Let's go fucking store in fat for now. Yeah, so
Exactly,
not optimal.
100%.
Yeah.
Then I guess the other things that can impact the need for a deload isn't actually the training itself. Sometimes, you might be in only the early week of a training program that really shouldn't be, pushing you to the need for deload. But say you're going through a really hard breakup, or, for me, fucking lately moving house. There's no such thing. There's no like stress bucket for life, stress bucket for work, stress bucket for gym. It's all one big bucket. And if you fill it up, no matter how you filled it up, it's full, and you can't add any more stress. And that's what training is, training stress. So if you've got a lot going on, you're if bodybuilding and hypertrophy is your main focus, then you need to work on all of the metrics of stress coming into your life and reduce them as much as possible, so you can dedicate as much stress accrual as possible to your training.
Yeah. I think what you just said about moving house, that's often a time when people won't get their training done for the week. So it's a great time for deload, because even though you might not be in the gym pushing weight, you're still lifting. You're still using all the muscles that you would be when you're in the gym. So you're still pushing, that nutrient partitioning is still there. You're not missing out on that side of things. So moving house is a great time to deload.
Exactly. And it would be a stage where a lot of people would push themselves into massive fatigue just from all the stress and everything like that. So, but that comes to, I guess, other fatigue management. Can be, it's not just about the gym. So fatigue management can be, if you're a stress head and you stress about everything, I've heard a lot of people say, you'll funnily enough find the big dudes in the gym, or the biggest guys in the Olympia, you meet them, they're always the most chill fucking guys. And is that a coincidence? Probably not, because like, they're the ones that the only stress that's coming into their life is from the gym. So they're able to do more, recover from more, grow more, and get faster results. And that doesn't necessarily mean that they live stress-free lives. It's just that their environment may be stressful, but up here and physically, they're not stressing, they're not producing that cortisol and moving their body into that massive sympathetic state. So working on your own ability to handle stress, whether it be, or mainly outside the gym, because you can't really work on how your body handles the stress in the gym, because it handles it by stimulating those pathways, and that's what you need. But working on your ability to handle stress from work and stress from relationships, everything like that.
Outside from the gym, especially
Absolutely.
relationships play a big role in impacting stresses. You know, if you've got kids, that plays a big role in things as well.
100%. Yeah.
Personally, I tend to manage that type of stress pretty good these days, but I was in a situation where I was in a very stressful relationship, and my body just, it didn't seem to.
Doesn't respond.
I was on a plateau for the end of that relationship.
Mm.
Didn't matter what I did, my body didn't want to respond just because there was so much stress in play. Sorry.
You get inflamed, like you can feel
Yeah,
it.
yeah, I look like shit. I look back at photos now. I think, fuck, I look like shit in that relationship, and I really did. And yeah, now I think, fuck, why do I look so much better these days? Maybe because there's so much stress out of my life now, and I can manage things a lot better. That yeah, my physique just reacted completely different. Just like another example, not on in terms of stress from outside of the gym factors or anything like that, but when I was prepping for comp once, I stressed my body the fuck out. Like I pushed and pushed hard, right? The last 3 weeks was a really hard 2 weeks, I think it was, sorry, was a really hard push where I was doing intense cardio, like 20 to 30,000 steps a day. Maybe sometimes 2 cardio sessions, my training, just fucking getting up at ridiculous hours of the morning, starting to walking until ridiculous hours of night. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's fucked. And my body looked so stressed. Like I got onto stage and my body looked fucked. I
Yeah.
came, I placed
Tired.
third and I was like 91.5 kilos on stage in the heavies. So under 102 and I was 91.5. 4 weeks later, I fucking, like, I didn't plan to do the nationals. I just wiped off all stress. I was like, fuck it, I'm done. Relax, eat some food. So I fucking kicked back. I relaxed. I ate whatever I wanted to eat for like fucking a week. And then another mate wanted to do the nationals and it was in Queensland. So I thought, all right, fuck it, I'll do it. You know, I'll go for the support and I'll just jump in because I'm close to ready anyway. I'll just see how I go. Turned out that, you know, after that 4 weeks, and I just reverse dieted after my fucking week of, you know, eating like a pig. I reverse dieted as I would normally. And it was my best look to date when I got on that national stage. It was a fucking crazy look. I don't know if I could match that look again, but yeah, it was good. Like my legs looked massive. My upper body actually looked a little bit smaller, which made my legs look even better. But the all-round balance was awesome. And my physique looked happy. It just looked happy. Like it was happy to fucking be alive. Whereas prior to that, when it was stressed, it looked like it looked like I just crawled out of a fucking coffin.
Yeah. That's why it's important as well to make sure you leave enough time for prep. Like if you, because the whole entire journey to that body fat is fucking stressful. Your body is going into a point where it's very close to death. So leaving a week or two to be able to chill out on training. And so you've got to push past where you kind of need to be. So that last week or two, you can pull back on training, pull back on cardio, allow your body to relax. And that when you start to relax, metabolism starts to speed up, you're feeding in carbs. That's when your body just, it'll flush all the water from all the stress. Your stress cortisol will come down. You look, the two different packages you can bring. If you are like, fuck, it's like 3 weeks out, I've got it 4 kilos to lose to hit my weight cap. You're gonna get there, but you're gonna look like shit. You're just gonna look stressed and watery. Have to fucking pump diuretics to try and get it out, and you're gonna look flat and tired. But if you can come down slow, get to that point, and start to come back up, your body starts to get happy. You'll look. That's where you get that real shrink wrapped look and
Yeah,
blasting full
yeah.
at the same time.
Instead of stringing.
Exactly, and yeah,
I
you
always
won't
tell
have to.
the physique that's been stressed, it looks very
Mhm.
stringy and sick, in
Yeah.
opposed to a physique that looks happily fucking on stage. It's very full, like you said, shrink wrapped, like skin's fucking tight. Everything looks great.
Yeah. And another point of stress that can come in is actually one, food volume and food load. So that's like sometimes in that end of the off season, but as well as food choice. And that's something that I didn't really consider when I was younger. It was just sort of like macros, man. That's all that fucking matters. But
Yeah, definitely not.
it's definitely not like the carbohydrate source that I used to use all the time was like your rice crackers, like your delights and Sakars and stuff like that.
Yep.
And I've moved recently to pretty much organic fruit, like try and move to organic meat and then rice flour and rice. And my body looks completely fucking different.
Yep.
Anxiety's down, inflammation's down, blood pressure's down. But yesterday I had the cicadas again, and I fucking felt that same feeling, like flushing my cheeks, a bit of like pressure everywhere, joints starting to feel it a little bit. So for me, I'm hypersensitive to whatever fucking oil they use to gel it together.
Yeah.
And now I'm also with, once again, omega-3s, make sure I have mackerel, sardines. I'm probably to the point where I'm like hyper anal about everything, to where I have omega-3s in the morning, at night. I have omega-6s around like pre-training. So like I'm trying to create the most anally retentive, efficient environment as far as nutrition.
Yeah.
But it, once again, I don't know if I'm placeboing myself into it, but my body has never responded so quickly on so little. And I've never felt better, like cognitively, in the gym, fucking happy. And there's a funny thing that happens when you start to move away from those shit foods. After about 2 weeks, man, fruit and natural foods start to taste fucking awesome.
Yeah, it's
Like once
the best. And rice is like magic. Like rice is, there's no stomach distension. The carbs are great. It's clean. It
you just
doesn't
get hungry.
shit. There's no processed bullshit in it. Unless
Mhm.
of course you're getting the packet rice. There's probably some shit in that that's not great. I haven't looked completely into that, but obviously, like it's got the fats are higher in that, so it's obviously they've cooked it in oil to preserve it. And I'm not exactly sure what type of oil it is.
Hmm.
There's got to be something wrong with that stuff. But normal jasmine rice is fucking great.
I've actually been using this week sushi rice, and I've
The
I've
sushi
cooked it
rice
in,
is good for volume as well. Like it's
oh,
just
and like white vinegar and fucking not white, rice vinegar and a bit of soy. And fuck me, I can put down rice like it's no one's business now. Like that, and that, once again, everyone's different. Everyone's a genetic individual when it comes to food.
yeah,
I definitely am hypersensitive. There's a lot of people that can get away with, more inflammatory foods. But at the same time, just because you can get away with something doesn't mean you necessarily should, especially for health, especially if using PEDs.
yeah,
You're already picking one poison. Fucking, you should be moving everything else towards
yeah.
stay healthy so we can do this.
And who says that just because you can handle that in that inflammatory food now, it's probably doing
Mm,
damage while you're trying to handle it. As you go over time, it's going to do extra damage, and you probably can't handle it as well anymore.
exactly. And it depends how, like, once again, some people are a bit more like body aware than others. I think I have hypochondria and I'm hyper anxious about it. So I can
That's something
feel
that you can build over time.
exactly. And it's the only way is thinking to look, because knowing that you feel like shit and realizing why are two different things, and they both take actual effort. Like you don't know that you felt like shit until you feel good, and then you don't know why you felt like shit until you do something and you relate it back, like, oh fuck, I'll do that again. That was it. Like for me, that was rice crackers, because that was something I did every day. I didn't even think to assume it was that, because it was just something I did every day. Oh, it must be I'm gaining weight, but it was a specific food choice that was making me inflamed.
Yeah. And that's it. That's another whole topic again, is fucking
Yeah.
body. Anyway, this is video's about to finish up, so we'll finish this one here.
Yep.
Do you want to send me a link now, and we'll do the increased calories and PEDs?
Yeah, yeah, easy.
All right, cool.